I know you recommend some supplementation, or we could say whole foods in supplement form, however we want to say it, but it's not all about the food. You do recommend supplements, correct?
Yes. Um, there are three supplements, three particular nutrients that are not optimized on a vegan diet. That you could optimize those nutrients, and we'll talk about those nutrients in more depth, but it's B12, right? Zinc and DHA EPA, right? Because in my 35 or more years of practice, and you know my association with the National Health Association, the former American Natural Hygiene Society, and the American Vegan Society, being a doctor for so many plant-based elderly people over the years, including all the leaders of those movements developing, a lot of them developing neurologic issues. Dr. Shelton developed Parkinson's, Dr. Sidwa developed Parkinson's, Dr. Burton developed Parkinson's, Dr. Vetrano developed dementia, there's so much dementia in the leaders of these natural plant-based movements that in my years of practice, noted to be linked to mostly to DHA deficiency. And there's so much data in the scientific literature corroborates the evidence that low levels of DHA exposure for the brain increases risk of both Parkinson's disease and cognitive impairment and brain shrinkage with aging. So I'm very aware of this long-term history and experience, this clinical experience with tens of thousands, maybe 20,000 patients, many elder vegans, seeing people eating very healthy vegan diets, still developing neurologic deficits in later life, even though not getting cancer, not having heart attacks, not having strokes. Excuse me. However, I've seen a lot of vegans with strokes who are still salting their foods. A lot of sudden death in vegans from at a younger age than you would expect from hemorrhagic stroke, from putting salt on their food, thinking that they're on a vegan diet and that's going to protect them from stroke, while they still put salt on their food. So I've seen a lot of that too. So yeah, it's not having the salt and getting exposure to zinc, DHA, and B12 that is so critically important.
So with that on the DHA, I know you have an algae supplement that you sell, and people say the best way for vegans to get the DHA is from a algae supplement, as such yours, or one of the other ones that are formulated correctly. What about chia and flax? Do you think that's not enough if somebody's willing to go the extra mile to grind them up and put them in their food?
Well, first of all, I started making my own DHA about 15 years ago, I'm guessing. Because when I found this issue and was so concerned about the potential risk of long-term vegans, I noticed that the DHA on the market would cause some people indigestion and it would taste a little bitter. So I had the algae-based DHAs analyzed by independent labs, and I found them to have a high degree of rancidity. And don't forget, there's one company in the United States making the DHA. There's not a lot of different companies making it. My DHA is made by the same manufacturer that makes the other brand of DHA. You know what I mean? It's all the same stuff. One person adds vitamin E to it as a preservative, rosemary, another person. And what we do is we put it in dark glass bottles and we have it shipped to us, in refrigerated trucks. So we keep it refrigerated in our warehouse. So when people order it, they get a fresh refrigerated product. And that's why I make DHA, because I wanted my patients and my family and my community to be able to have a fresh product, because we know that we've tested as they sit at room temperature for months after month after month, the TBA score gradually goes up and you have a higher degree of rancidity. The point is, oils are supposed to be consumed fresh. And we want to keep, if we're going to use an oil, which is a processed food, it should be kept in a fresh package. So I did start making that. Yes, and that's to supply the long chain EPA DHA that you would get if you had something like fish or oysters or shellfish or crab or bivalves like oysters and scallops and mussels and clams. But just think about this for a minute. What if you just had a couple of oysters a week or a couple of clams or a piece of a crab to get your DHA and EPA and your omega-3 and your zinc. That would work, right? And the problem with that today is with so much dumping of not just plastics in the coastal waterways that have made these things exposure to a lot of plastics, but it's also, there's a lot of agricultural runoff, both in coastal waterways and inland lakes, leading to algae overgrowth and the growth of cyanobacteria, which forms a compound called BMAA, to be high concentration in shellfish and bivalves. Bivalves are clams, oysters, mussels, and scallops, right? And now in the scientific literature, we're seeing both higher rates of ALS, you know what that is, and we're seeing PDS, Parkinson's dementia syndrome, in people eating lake fish from algae overgrowth or from eating coastal, like small fish off the coast, but particularly bivalves and shellfish being higher risk of brain disease. So even though they contain these nutrients like B12 and omega-3 that can help the brain, they're neurotoxic. They contain such a large quantity of neurotoxins that actually can destroy your brain. So they're no longer an answer. You can't just supplement with a little bit of seafood, with a little bit of oysters, which are rich in zinc and DHA or something. So it's safer. So I'm saying with the pollution, it's safer to keep your diet predominantly vegan and just use these supplements judiciously to assure nutritional optimization. And you can do an omega-3 index on your blood to see if you're in that optimal range to maximize brain size with aging, because us nutritarians are going to live a lot longer. And because we're living a lot longer, we want to keep our full mental faculty. And that the ability to convert the short chain omega-3, the ALA, found in chia and flax and hemp and lettuce, and walnuts into longer chain fats is very genetically dependent. And my clinical experience and the studies in the scientific literature, corroborated by the studies, that the majority of vegans do not make an adequate enough to maintain neurologic health in later life. Some can make enough, because there's some people that convert enough ALA into EPA and DHA. But most people do not, their conversion enzymes do not work efficiently. There are more people who are more like, have maybe a historical fish dependency or animal product dependency. They're more dependent on getting those nutrients from animal products. So the answer is, it's not a one size fits all. Some people know you need more and some pies, but you can't just eat more flax seeds or chia seeds to get more DHA, because there's a rate limiting step in how much the body can convert. And no matter how much you eat, your body's not going to convert enough of it for most people.